So I recently got a comment on one of my videos on YouTube asking what if the on the Wico ignition module, how to get it going video, what if that don't work? What if cleaning and adjusting the points don't work? Well, how did you clean them? Did you use a file, a fingernail file, or a rasp, or a Dremel tool, or a pocket knife, or did you not clean them at all? How well did you clean them? If you didn't clean them at all, there's your problem. Clean the fucking things. If you used a pocket knife, you'd have better done a real good job. You gotta do a good job of cleaning these babies. You really do. Then, after you're done, get some good old starting fluid and spray in the points while they're wide open, and make sure you got all that junk out. Make sure to let that ether dry out first before closing them up or using them, though. Make damn sure of that. Brake cleaner, starting fluid, all those. Just make sure that it's all gone before you even put the cover back on. So, did you gap them properly? Well, how did you gap them? Did you gap them? Well, what should you gap them at? You should gap them at 20 thousandths. 18 to 22. 22 maximum. 18 is okay. 20 is perfect. 15, it might work, but it ain't gonna work well. So, what all can go wrong behind there? Well, there's the snapper. What's the snapper? So the snapper is this little mechanism that when on the compression stroke, at the beginning of the compression stroke, this cam should stop rotating at about the beginning of the compression stroke, maybe midway through, I don't remember. But anyways, it should stop rotating, and then once it reaches top dead center approximately, it should snap, just flipping fast. And the rotor is a magnet, and it'll send a huge power pulse all through the magneto, and that's why you can spin these over as slow as you want, and they will still spark full blast if they're working. Now, if that snapper ain't working, you gotta take this whole mechanism apart, and you gotta clean it and lube it and make sure everything is working right before you put it back together, back on the engine. If that snapper ain't working, you're gonna really have to spin this motor over fast just to get it started. If the snapper's working, you can start it just spinning it over by hand. I've done that before. Just like this. Yeah, really. But the snapper on this ain't working. So what about testing the ignition coil? What are the chances that coil is bad? Not very good. Or not very high. But there's still a chance. So how do you test it? Well, what I would do is I'd get something like this. Let me get a clamp here or something. And ground it. So, and get it close to this little button here on the coil. You'll see what I mean when you open it up. Get a battery of some sort. Doesn't matter what voltage. Generally, you're just gonna bump the bastard. So then, it don't matter what terminal goes where. You just gotta isolate the coil from the points. Then just bump. You see a spark there? Yeah, me either. That means your coil's bad. Just strike it like a match, basically. Or a cigarette lighter or something. Just strike it. Doesn't matter which side goes where, just as long as it does it. So what about, or just as long as it gets contact very short term. Just very short term contact. So what if it sparks? Well, you have a good coil. You got that out. That's out of the way. So, what else could be wrong? We've already covered dirty points, improper gapping, the possibilities of a bad ignition coil. Okay, so that's all out. What about grounding? Is your ignition coil grounded properly? Are your points grounded properly? Is everything grounded properly? If not, there's your problem. Get everything grounded properly. Get everything cleaned. So, how do you check grounding? With an ohm meter. Ohm meter, diode checker, whatever. I have this nice little ohm meter here with the buzzer on it. So, first, get your points closed. Then, on the side that should never be grounded unless they're closed, put one of your terminals. Then on the other side, on the ground, if it has continuity and no ohms, no resistance, that means your points are clean. So what? Now on the base of the points, don't just go to the ground. Go to the base of the points there. But what if? Now why do I say to not go to the ground? Well, that rules out one more thing. Or that rules in one more thing. What if you have bad ground between their points base and the ground itself? What if you have a bad connection? So what we gotta do is check that. So from the base of the points to the ground of the module, we have continuity. So we have continuity there too. But what if that didn't work? What if there's no continuity between the base of the points and the ground? You gotta take the points off, and you gotta clean the contacts there between the base and the ground. Now what about the condenser? There are ways to check the condenser. None of them, I don't know very many good ways. Generally, you gotta take it out and charge it up with another ignition coil. So one side goes to the ground, the other side goes to the spark plug wire, and spin the motor over and make sure this isn't actually contacting the ignition coil or there's a diode in there. Then, just touching the base, ground the wire to the base, and if it don't spark, you have a bad condenser. Now, if you go and use your ohm meter to go from ground to the wire of the condenser and you hear a beep or there are ohms, you have a bad condenser. If it don't spark, you have a bad condenser after you charge it up. So, yeah, that's basically it. Just make sure you have a good ground, make sure your coil is good, make sure the snapper's working. To get the snapper working, you gotta take this whole thing apart, and there's so many styles. I can't do a video on them. You're just gonna have to do it yourself. Yeah, that's basically it though. Points gap, clean the points, make sure the base is clean, make sure your grounding is all good, make sure your coil is good, make sure the snapper is good. Oh yeah, one last thing, magnets on the rotor. How to check the magnets. If a screwdriver don't stick to them, you have bad magnets. I've never seen bad magnets on a rotor, but I've heard of it happening. Yeah, that's basically it. There are many styles of these. Just, like I said, you just gotta dig in, and it's pretty much self-explanatory at that point. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.